Well, what have I got here? As if the title of the video doesn't give it away. This has been sitting with me now for, well, 2 weeks tomorrow, and I've been dying to get my hands on it, dying to open it, but I've just not had the time. So I've been really looking forward to doing this. So let's just kick off and open this box. So the first thing you notice is just how big and chunky everything is, and the sort of gap between the actual knobs, and there's such space between them. It's really nice and chunky. The knobs feel really sort of nice and firm, and a lovely bit of woodwork. Unlike on the original, we've got USB, and we've got MIDI in and out and a through. We've got TV and gate in and out, and we have just a single audio out because of course this isn't stereo. And we got amp and filter pedal inputs as well. And of course, it's got a beautiful 5-octave keyboard. Yeah, it's really impressive looking. And you know, I don't know why wood on a synth makes it really impressive looking. It's a bit like your grandmother's sideboard, well, had a built-in stereo or a TV back in the 70s that were made of wood. But you know, there's something really nice about this. I don't know why I'm so excited by this. I feel like a kid at Christmas. This is really a bizarre thing. I mean, I get lots of synths in here, you know, I buy and I sell quite a lot, but there's something about this that's really reminds me a bit of when I first got the Mini Moog. This is yeah, something special. But let's plug it in and have a bit of a play. I don't know what it is, but that really does sound just beautiful and lush. And it's bizarre because it's a really simple tone. And I don't know, it's just, you know, you try and make those simple tones on other things, but it doesn't quite have the sound this has got. So now I've had my very first little play on it. Let's just take a little overview of what there is, shall we? We've got the polymod section as we expect. The inputs being the filter envelope and oscillator B, and you've got frequency A, pulse width of A, and the filter as the destinations. LFO, we've got 3 shapes, but you can mix the shapes. We've got 5 destinations for the modulation wheel. Frequency A, frequency B, pulse width of A, pulse width of B, and the filter. So the modulation section's really quite basic compared to sort of modern standards and what you get on virtual analogs and what you get on even something like the Rev4 or the Prophet 8, but it is all analog. And then we go to the oscillators, and all this is really familiar to me because I got the Native Instruments Pro 53, I think it was, years ago, and just sort of fell in love with the simplicity of the interface. I've got the Arturia Pro V, is it? And I've also got Yuhi's excellent Repro 5, which will probably be putting up against this at some point in the near future. And I've also got the Pro 6, which I will again be putting up against this very soon, because you know, what's the point in having the Pro 6 and the Pro 5? Which one do I keep? So I'll be looking closely at that, because I'm not sure I need them both, he says, and then I'll probably end up trying to buy a new house just to fit them all in. And then we've got the mixer section, oscillator A, oscillator B, and some noise. The filter on this, we've got the 2 divisions from the Rev1 and 2 and the Rev3. And keyboard control of the filters, either just off, half, or full, but that's a bit like is it the Pro 6 does that as well? 2 ADSR envelopes, one for the filter and one for the amplifier. And that's pretty much it. We've got no effects in here. We've got a tuning oscillator like you do on the Mini Moog. We've got the velocity, can go to the filter or the amplitude or both. And we've got aftertouch as well. So let's start off by taking a look at the filter. It calls it a basic preset in the manual, record and preset. That's just a single sawtooth with the Revision 3 filter. Let's stick the resonance on about 50%. And we're not losing any bass with the resonance up. And then on full. Watch your ears. shame I'm not in the studio on the Neumanns, which go much lower than these Denaudios I'm listening to in here. But the frequency analysis is showing me that's going super low. And that sounds like stepping we're hearing there. I'd have thought it would be much smoother than that. I thought at first maybe it's just picking out the harmonics, but actually I'm moving this as slowly as I can. If we go down to the lower frequencies where you don't get as many harmonics, I'm not even breathing when I do that. I'm holding my breath so that I'm not nudging it sort of accidentally, but I'm moving that as slowly as I possibly can. And you can hear stepping there, and this is doing what the Prophet 6 filter does, and it tunes it to semitones. So if I just put the filter on its own, take the oscillators out, and then just modulate the cutoff. That's doing a semitone at a time, so you can tune the filter to a frequency. And put the keyboard control on. Okay, so it gets really, really nice and bassy, and it's a really smooth filter. You've only got one resonant peak in there, and other things you get 2 or 3 resonant peaks, and you get this really harsh tone, nice and smooth on this. And let's try that now on 1 and 2. So there are differences in tone, so let's do the whole filter sweep thing again with 1 and 2. Nice. Resonance on 50%. Watch your ears. Again, that's great, isn't it? Let's turn the resonance to full. It's a little bit higher pitched on this. It's saying it's around 9 kilohertz. On the Rev4, it's about 8. Swapping between the 2 different filters. That gets lovely and rumbly as well. And let's just modulate those sort of around 50% resonance and a sort of 50% cutoff as well. And Rev4. And maybe let's try these with the chords, shall we, so we get some more rich harmonics going on. Let's add some envelope then to the filter and put the cutoff on low, envelope amount up and the attack up, so now we shouldn't get any stepping, he says, hopefully. Oh, there you go. So no step in there. Some people really love the fact that it tunes chromatically to the keyboard. I'm not a massive fan of it, but it is what it is. That's what it does. So it's one of those things that you either love it or you don't. But you know, it's there. It's on the Prophet. It's what they do. The Prophet 6 does it. Prophet 5 does it. But it does help any sound where you want to tune the filter as a third oscillator. So make an organ sound, for example. Really, really simple to make when you've got a chromatically tuned filter. You'd spend ages trying to tune that filter for each of those sounds if you didn't have that tuned filter. But it's not a fault, it's not a flaw, it's a design choice. So super easy to do that sort of thing. And let's just, for the hell of it, just try that on Rev 1 and 2 again. So much more of a difference between Rev 3 and Rev 1 and 2 doing stuff like that. Okay, so I think we've done the filters now. Let's move over to the oscillators. So starting with oscillator A, we've got a sawtooth and we've got a square. The square goes through 0. You can hear a tiny buzz in there, but the oscillator sort of effectively closed down. And then the sawtooth. And then you can mix them. But you can't blend them, you can't adjust the level of the sawtooth or the square. And then we look at the frequency here, we can go from C0 to C4, but like on the Prophet 6, these are tuned, which is normally very handy until you start playing around with the final button on this, which is the sync. So if you put the sync on, that's sync into oscillator B, which isn't playing at the minute. Let's put a sawtooth on B. You can't manually tweak that without it jumping between the different tones or the different pitches. And something I like to do quite a lot is to change the tone gradually over time, and using sync is a great way of doing that. You can just put it in sync and just slightly tweak it and you get just an evolving tone. I'll have the part in my DAW and I'm playing it back on the synth and then I'll re-tweak it, or I might tweak it via MIDI, and just to get some nice variations. And I can't get them with this because it's tuned. It's not drastically bad, it's just not as smooth as I'd like. I wonder if I change the frequency of oscillator A with the LFO. Let's just try that. So yeah, you can do it nice and smoothly with the LFO if you want. I mean, it's not a massive imposition or anything, but just as I'm playing this, going through it and picking out little things that I notice as I notice them. So bear with me on that. This literally is me getting out of the box and having a little play with it. Moving on to oscillator B then, we've got a similar thing here. We've got a sawtooth, we've got a triangle as well, and we've got the square, and you can blend between them. Let's just turn that on its own. It's a really nice sounding triangle for subs. Nice mellow subs. And then you've got the square, identical to what you've got on oscillator A. On this, we also have a low frequency mode. So it becomes a second LFO. And we can have keyboard control on or off. So that is a strict LFO and it'll play the same rate no matter what you're playing on the keyboard. Let's move over to the polymod section. Just do something quick there. We all know what it does, but nice to have a little listen to it. So if we go to modulate oscillator A with oscillator B. Being able to tune the frequencies really quickly is actually quite nice here, because you can get those sort of nice tones that work well, that are sort of harmonically musical. And then you can fine tune. So really quick there to find those sort of nice little sweet spots. And then if I want it to get a bit more nasty, all very nice. Let's take a look at some of the other functions then. Let's try this vintage one, shall we? Let's bring up a preset. I think I've covered most bases here. I've done some polymod, LFO. I think we brought the LFO using the mod wheel. Looked at oscillator A, oscillator B, the filter, noise. Have you ever listened to noise? Just in case you like a bit of noise. That's quite nice and loud actually. On my Pro 1 it's really quiet. Sounds like white noise as well. We've also got unison mode we've not looked at yet. We've got chord, or we can have up to all the 5 voices playing at the same time. I do like chord mode. Let's try a bit of that. That is interesting. It's completely different using vintage one. Let's try another unison mode then. Let's just go to 5 voices. Nice again. I do like this vintage knob. I quite like it to be a little bit more sloppy. I really like the way the Prophet 6 goes completely demonic when you turn it over sort of 50%. And of course, on unison mode, if we take that down to a single voice, we've effectively got a Pro 1. So do I still need my Pro 1? Could help fund this though, couldn't it? So yeah, turns it into a mono synth. Okay, I think it's time now just to sort of dig into some of the presets and see what we've got in here. It's really interesting looking at this because it's such a basic interface. And I've recently looked at the Cobalt and the Minilog XD, the Jupiter XM, the System 8, and they've got quite a lot of things going on, but this is really simple and much more expensive than all of them. I could probably get an XM and a System 8 together for the price of this, or the Cobalt 8, the Minilog XD, the System 8, and a couple of other bits and bobs. So it's a big investment, but it's one I'm hoping I'm not going to regret. So all in all, quite beautiful tones, complex tones, all from a very simple interface, and that's why it's a classic. And I, for one, really like more simple tones. Make a complex track with lots of simple tones rather than making a complex tone to make a track. Different way of doing things. Maybe it's because I'm not capable of making really complex tones. I don't know, but it's the way I like to do it, which is why I quite like the Prophet. It's why I like the Prophet 6. It's why I like the OB6. You know, these are really great instruments. If you do like your more complex programming techniques, there's the Rev4, which again I really like. You know what, I like them all. I'm rubbish, I can't pick a favourite. Well, I can actually. I think this is my new favourite, but we'll see. Time will tell, and I'll do a comparison of this and the Pro 6 very soon, just to see am I being mental or not getting this when I've already got the Pro 6 and the OB6, which cover all the bases. Is this just the pure lust-driven fantasy keyboard for me? And why did I buy the 5 rather than the 10? Well, mainly because of the cost, to be honest. It's super expensive as it is, and I think it was another $400 to get the 10. And also, I mean, people have craved the Prophet 5 for years, and now we've got one, and all of a sudden we want a 10. I don't know. I never play with 10 fingers anyway, but it's more to do with note stealing when you go from a chord to a chord. But I quite find it's nice to have the limitation of the note stealing because it doesn't muddy up a mix too much, playing too many notes in a chord, or a bit like the Juno 106, where when you play from one chord to the next, you don't get the overlap, and it just cleans your mix up a bit. So I quite like it. Well, I hope that was of some use to somebody somewhere, and if it was, please think about subscribing or taking a look at my Patreon page. It all helps the channel. I buy and I sell bits and bobs, and I don't make any money off this, he says after sitting here with the Prophet 5 in front of him. But this is my Christmas present. It's my Christmas money. It's nothing to do with the channel. But I hope that was of some use to somebody somewhere, and I'll see you next time.